Mitchell Robinson is going to be huge in the Pacers series. Mitchell Robinson has put together one of the most statistically impactful playoff runs for the Knicks in recent memory, and the numbers don't just support that. They basically scream it. Starting with the overall net rating, Robinson leads the team with a plus 4.1, meaning the Knicks outscore their opponents by over 4 points for every 100 possessions when he's on the court. That's not a small margin in playoff basketball. Against the Celtics, that number jumps to plus 10.6, which isn't just the best for him, it's the best on the entire team for that series. That's a massive swing, and it gets even more dramatic when you look at the on-off splits. In the 124 minutes Robinson played against Boston, the Knicks outscored the Celtics by 46 points. 46. And when he sat, they were outscored by 43. That's a net swing of 89 points tied directly to one player's presence. These are the kinds of numbers you usually only see in MVP conversations, and he's not even being asked to carry an offensive load. Robinson's rebounding has been absolutely dominant, and that word's not being used lightly. On the offensive glass, he's averaging 3.8 offensive rebounds per game against the Celtics and 3.7 against the Pistons. These are not inflated by a single standout performance. This is consistent, wrecking ball level rebounding. And it's not just personal stat padding either. When Robinson's on the floor, the Knicks are rebounding 38% of their own missed shots. That's better than any team in the modern era since 1998. When he's off the court, that number drops to 26%, a full 12 percentage point drop because one guy isn't playing. That alone changes entire possessions, stretches, and outcomes. And on the other end, it doesn't slow down. Robinson's pulling in 4.2 defensive rebounds per game against the Celtics, which brings his total to 8 rebounds per game for that series. He's affecting every shot and immediately ending possessions, or turning them into second chance gold mines. The balance between his offensive and defensive board work is key. He's not leaning heavily in one direction. He's dominating both. By the way, if you guys enjoy these deep dives, I'll be posting every day during this playoffs. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks. Anyways, now let's talk defense, because this is where he becomes a literal wall. Over the last 10 playoff games, Robinson has averaged 1.3 blocks per game. That includes a 4-block performance in the first round against Philadelphia. These aren't fluke swats either. These are calculated denial, with him rotating, switching, and timing everything correctly. And that switching, that's maybe the most underrated part. He switched out on the perimeter, taking on elite wings like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and actually made them work for their points. The Celtics had to adjust entire sets just to avoid him getting involved in the play. That kind of perimeter mobility at his size is not common, and it's a huge reason the Knicks defense has held up during playoff intensity. He's also chipped in 1 steal per game against Boston, including a 3-steal game in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. That's another indicator of how involved he is in every part of the defensive process. Steals for a center usually mean they're reading the floor well, rotating at the right time, and getting hands in the passing lanes without fouling. It's not just rim protection, it's full court awareness. Let's get into the scoring side now, and while Robinson's not the go-to option on offense, he's incredibly efficient with what he gets. Over 17 playoff games in this run, he's shooting 66.1% from the field. That's high-level finishing, plain and simple. He's not out here missing bunnies or getting blocked on putbacks. And he's not just camping under the rim. He's moving, diving, sealing, and finishing through contact. His effective field goal percentage was 50%. That's slightly down from his postseason average, but still very respectable, considering he's not getting set plays run for him. And yes, the free throws have been ugly. There's no dressing that up. Coming into the Celtics series, he had made 11 of 38 free throws. That's 28.9%. But then came Game 5. And he turned that whole narrative around by going a perfect 6 for 6. Boston tried to get smart with the Hacker Robinson strategy, fouling him intentionally to force him off the floor or tank possessions. He made them pay. He hit every single one. That shut that door quickly. It wasn't just the makes, it was the timing. It completely flipped Boston's approach and forced them to think twice about how to handle him late in games. Now, into the advanced metrics, which pretty much confirm what everyone else already felt just watching the games. Robinson's player efficiency rating is sitting at 20.4 for the playoffs. That's above average for starters, and especially strong for a defensive first center. For reference, his career playoff peer coming into this postseason was 20.3, so he's maintained that same elite efficiency even as the competition has ramped up. That's consistency under pressure, which is something you can't say about a lot of players once the postseason begins. His win shares total is 1.3, and that's a strong number considering his usage. He's not out there getting the ball every possession. He's earning wins through efficiency, defense, and control of the paint. His contributions don't come with a flashy stat line every night, but his win shares track exactly how many victories his play is helping secure. And the data says he's helping a lot. But arguably, the most devastating stat of all is the on-off court impact. Against the Celtics, the Knicks were plus 38 points per 100 possessions when Robinson played. That is the best mark among rotation players, and it's not even close. To put that in context, anything above plus 5 is considered great. Plus 38 is territory that you usually reserve for all-time great playoff run. In Game 6, Robinson played just 14 minutes. His box score numbers were modest. He didn't fill it up in any particular column, but in those 14 minutes, the Knicks were plus 20. That tells you everything you need to know about how powerful his presence is on both ends. He affects the floor spacing. He alters shots. He finishes around the rim. He dominates the glass. And he wins minutes. Let's go back to his offensive rebounding for a second because it's worth lingering on. The tap-tap-tap method he's used has created chaos under the rim for defenders. He doesn't just grab the board and reset, he keeps it alive, keeps fighting, and forces the opposing team to commit extra help to stop him. That pulls defenders away from perimeter shooters and opens up driving lanes on resets. It's not just hustle, it's functional disruption. It messes up the other team's flow. Boston felt that enough to start fouling him intentionally in Game 2. They committed 3 deliberate fouls just to get him off the court. That says more than any analytic ever could. When your opponent is actively trying to remove you from the equation by any means necessary, that's not a minor impact. That's elite disruption. The Knicks don't need him to score 20 every night. They need exactly what he's doing. Locking up the paint, forcing turnover, switching onto perimeter threats without being exposed, and turning missed shots into extra possession. The numbers show that the Knicks become a significantly more efficient and dominant team the moment he steps on the floor. His performance in these playoffs is also about durability and consistency. It's one thing to have a couple great games. It's another to keep putting up numbers like this series after series. From the Pistons to the Celtics, he's been steady. Rebounds, blocks, net rating, on-off splits, field goal percentage, it's all right there. And it's all trending up. There's no part of the statistical profile that suggests this is a fluke or a hot streak. This is just what he's doing now. Even with the free throw issues early on, he's turned that into a smaller part of his overall profile. When he's knocking down shots like he did in Game 5, it basically removes the only viable defensive tactic teams have had against him. He becomes unplayable in the best possible way for the other team. They don't want to see him on the floor because the numbers say he's changing the game. And what's most wild about all of this is that Robinson is doing it with a usage rate that's not even top 3 on his own team. He's not getting fed possessions like a lead scorer. He's not dominating touches. He's just dominating outcomes. That is the definition of impactful efficiency. You can't teach that kind of presence. It just shows up in the numbers over and over and over again. From net rating, to rebounding, to defense, to efficiency metrics, to win shares and on-off splits. Mitchell Robinson has been statistically one of the most valuable players in the 2025 playoffs. And for the Knicks, every single one of those stats has translated into wins, stops, and momentum. No highlight reel needed, just numbers that do all the talking. But the thing is, Mitch is going to have to be great versus the Pacers. Mitchell Robinson's role in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers is about to go from important to absolutely non-negotiable. If the Knicks want to get past Indiana, they don't just need Robinson to show up. They need him to dominate. The numbers from the first 2 rounds set the baseline, but what comes next is going to demand another level entirely. And the good news, he's built for this. And the stats say he can deliver if he sharpens just a few areas of his game. And the thing is, they've been great this whole season. And you can make this your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. Personally, I've been using Factor for the past few weeks, and honestly, it's changed everything. No more stressing over what to cook or cleaning up after. Just heat, eat, and go. Especially while watching the playoffs, it makes everything so easy. The shredded chicken taco bowl, fire. The garlic herb salmon, better than anything I've ever made at home. Instead of being stuck in the kitchen, I've been spending more time outside and hitting the gym. And Factor fits right into that routine. And like I said, with the playoffs on too, you don't gotta stress about missing the game. With 45 weekly options, I can switch it up constantly. Whether I'm aiming for high protein or just keeping it light, they've got it all. Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, even veggie meals. Plus, they've got snacks and desserts that don't ruin your goals. I've been loving their smoothies and those peanut butter energy bites. I'm hooked. So why not savor more this summer? Let Factor take care of the meals so you can enjoy more of everything else. Get started at factormeals.com/modernjam50off and use code ModernJam50off to get 50% off, plus free shipping on your first box. That's code ModernJam50off at factormeals.com/ModernJam50off for 50% off, plus free shipping. Thank you, Fact. So buckle in, because here's what has to happen by the numbers for the Knicks to beat Indiana, and why Robinson is right in the center of that math. Let's start with defense. Robinson is averaging 1.3 blocks per game over his last 10 playoff games. That's an uptick from earlier in the postseason, where he sat at just 0.4 blocks per game. He's clearly been ratcheting up the rim protection when it matters most. But against Indiana, 1.3 might not be enough. The Pacers aren't trying to win a grinded-out battle. They're going to run, cut, and attack relentlessly. Tyrese Halliburton is averaging 9.3 assists per game, and Pascal is hitting 54.1% of his shots. These aren't mid-range specialists. These are players built to collapse a defense and either finish or kick. Robinson's ability to protect the rim without fouling becomes more essential than ever. He's currently allowing 50% field goal shooting at the rim, which is significantly better than his regular season numbers. But to stop Indiana, he's going to need to lower that even further. 2 blocks per game needs to be the target, because anything less and the paint turns into a layup line. And this isn't even just about blocks. It's about altering shots, cutting off driving lanes, and forcing the Pacers into their least efficient looks. And the problem doesn't stop at the rim. Indiana's center, Miles Turner, is shooting 45% from 3 in the playoffs. That's not a typo. He's been stretching the floor like a wing, and he leads all players in total blocks with 25. Robinson has to chase him out to the perimeter and close out without fouling or giving up rebounding position. That means Robinson is going to have to toggle between protecting the paint and sprinting out to challenge a legitimate deep threat. That's a huge ask, but it's also the key to shutting off Indiana's pick and pop attack, which will absolutely shred slower bigs if given the chance. Robinson has to hold Turner to under 40% from deep. It's not optional. If Turner starts knocking down open looks from beyond the arc, it will collapse the entire Knicks defensive scheme and put pressure on their perimeter defenders to overhelp. That opens up cuts, skips, and second chance chaos. So Robinson's ability to recover on pick and pops without sacrificing rebounding becomes one of the most valuable tasks in the series. Now let's talk glass. Robinson is currently averaging 6.8 rebounds per game in just 18.5 minutes. That includes 3.8 offensive rebounds per game, the most on the team. It's not just quantity either. His contested rebound rate is sitting at 47.9%. That's absurd. Nearly half of his rebounds are coming with an opponent right there. That's effort, timing, and strength colliding. Against Indiana, those offensive boards become even more critical. The Pacers rank 22nd in defensive rebounding from the regular season, and they haven't improved much in the playoff. Robinson has the opportunity to give the Knicks 4 to 6 extra possessions per game just by doing what he already does. But here's the catch. Indiana plays fast, really fast. Their 104.3 possessions per game is the second highest in the playoffs. So if the Knicks want to slow them down, it starts with controlling the tempo through rebounds. Robinson needs to grab at least 4 offensive boards per game and 10 total rebounds if possible. That number gives the Knicks the leverage they need to stop Indiana from getting into their transition rhythm. And it doesn't just deny Indiana easy buckets, it helps New York's half-court offense settle in. Here's another layer that absolutely has to shift. Robinson's free throw shooting. It's been a disaster. He's hitting just 39.1% in the playoffs. Boston tried to exploit that with intentional fouls, and it worked until Game 5, when Robinson went 6 for 6 from the line. But Indiana watched those tapes. If his percentage stays below 40, they will absolutely repeat that same strategy. They don't even need to get creative. Just copy and paste the Hack a Robinson page from Boston's playbook. So the goal has to be 60% or better from the line. That's still not good, but it's enough to make fouling him a risky strategy rather than an easy out. If he hits 6 out of 10 consistently, the Pacers are going to be forced to play him straight up, which opens up everything else. But if he's still clanging them off the back iron, he'll be sitting in the fourth quarter, and that's a recipe for collapse. He also has to limit his own fouls. Right now, he's drawing 3.8 fouls per game, but only making about 1.5 of those count at the line. And defensively, he's averaging enough fouls to occasionally put himself in trouble. The Pacers have a bench full of guys like TJ McConnell and Obi Toppin, who feast on drawing contact and exploiting mismatches. If Robinson picks up 2 fouls in the first quarter, Indiana's offense is going to open wide. He has to stay under 3 fouls per game, and that starts with smarter positioning. especially on help rotations. And speaking of smart rotations, let's talk perimeter defense. Robinson's actually been solid in switching situations, allowing just 33.3% shooting in isolations this postseason. It's a small sample size, sure, but it suggests he's not a liability when he gets pulled out to the arc. That's going to be tested hard. The Pacers' motion offense thrives on mismatches and weak side cuts, and they'll test every switch until they find an opening. Halliburton's shooting 47.4% overall, and Pascal is hitting nearly 39% from deep. So Robinson has to show, recover, and communicate with precision. He'll likely be forced to switch onto guards at least 5 times per game. If he gives up a blow-by even twice, it's probably a dunk or a kick-out 3. So the margin for error is razor thin. He needs to hold the Pacers to under 50% shooting in the paint. They're currently hitting 55.2% in that area, which is deadly when paired with their tempo. If that number stays up, the Knicks will have to chase games all series long. Now let's get into the lineup math, because the synergy here is real. Robinson had a plus 10.6 net rating against Boston. That was the best of anyone in the series. But against Detroit, it was a brutal minus 8.3. That kind of swing shows how volatile his impact can be, depending on the matchup. Indiana's personnel leans more toward the Boston model: fast, stretch heavy, and attack first. So the version of Robinson the Knicks need is the one that showed up against Boston, not the one who struggled against Detroit. The Knicks' best playoff lineup so far is when Robinson shares the floor with Karl-Anthony Towns. That pairing has a plus 12.3 net rating in 42 minutes. That's a huge number in a small sample, but it shows the potential. The key is sustaining that performance over more minutes. Robinson averaged 18.5 minutes per game in the first 2 rounds. He's going to need to bump that to 20 or 25 without a drop in energy. Indiana's bench will try to tire him out. McConnell, Toppin, and even guys like Ben Shepherd bring relentless pace. But if Robinson can stay engaged, control his fouls, and keep contesting shots, then his net rating needs to stay at plus 5 or higher. That's the number that balances out Indiana's scoring depth. So here's the checklist. If the Knicks want to win the series, and it all runs through Mitchell Robinson, he has to block at least 2 shots per game. He has to limit Indiana to under 50% shooting in the paint. He needs to pull down 4 or more offensive rebounds and aim for 10 total. He must shoot over 60% from the free throw line to eliminate any temptation for intentional fouls. He has to defend the perimeter without giving up open threes or drive-bys. He needs to play at least 20 minutes per game and keep the team's net rating above plus 5 while he's out there. This isn't a fantasy. It's exactly what he's already shown in flashes against top teams. If he puts it all together for this series, then Indiana's fast-paced, spread-out style starts to look a lot more manageable. But if he falls short in even one of those categories, the Pacers have enough depth, shooting, and movement to capitalize immediately. Mitchell Robinson isn't just a role player in this series. He's a game-altering chess piece. Every possession he plays with focus and energy helps tip the scales. And every possession he's sitting due to foul trouble, missed free throws, or fatigue opens the door for Indiana's pace to break things open. If the Knicks make it to the finals, there's no chance it happens without Robinson having his best series yet. Every stat points to that reality. So the question isn't whether he matters. The only question left is whether he can rise to that level across 7 games. Based on what he's already done, the answer might just be yes. But I want to go back to the Robinson-Towns lineup. When Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns are on the floor together, the numbers flat out explode. The Knicks are outscoring opponents by 9.2 points per 100 possessions in those minutes. That's not just solid, it's elite. That kind of net rating would have landed them comfortably in the top 5 in the entire league over a full season. It's not even close to average. That's full-on domination. Offensively, they're putting up an insane 128 points per 100 possessions. That's top-tier stuff. It puts them right alongside the absolute best scoring teams in the league. And even with all the offensive fireworks, their defense still tightens up. When Robinson and Towns are both out there, the Knicks' defense rating drops to 118.8. That's already a nice bump from their regular average of 120.3. You can see the lift in both directions, and it gets even better in the smaller samples. In the 47 total regular season minutes they actually played together, that net rating shoots up to a ridiculous plus 28. That's not a typo. Plus 28. When you throw Bridges into the mix with them, things go from great to absurd. That combination turns the team into a switchable, floor-spacing nightmare on both ends of the court. No one wants to go against that lineup. Let's talk rim protection. With Robinson and Towns sharing the court, the Knicks only allow 50.6 points in the paint per 100 possessions. Without them, that number climbs to 55.2. That's a huge drop. Robinson's shot blocking has always been elite. He's averaging 1.5 blocks every 36 minutes. But when he's got Towns next to him, who can move and cover ground like a wing, that paint becomes off limits. Robinson's switching is a huge part of it too. In isolation situations, he's holding guards to just 33.3% shooting. That's a brutal number if you're on offense. Meanwhile, Towns helps close out on shooters and brings that extra length on the perimeter, helping cut opponents' three-point percentage down by 3.5% when they're both in. That kind of impact on the perimeter and inside at the same time is rare. Their best defensive lineup, Towns, Robinson, OG, and Bridges. That group held Miami to just 15 points in a whole quarter. That's not a lucky break. That's a four-man blockade that shuts everything down. If the Knicks can get more minutes out of that crew together, opponents are going to feel like they're trying to score through a wall. On offense, the spacing gets wild. Towns is hitting 44% of his threes, and defenders have no choice but to stay glued to him on the perimeter. That opens the floor like crazy. Meanwhile, Robinson's rolling to the basket with freakish efficiency. He's shooting 68.2% on those plays, and you can't leave him alone on a lob or a dump off, or he's flushing it. The synergy between Towns and Jalen Brunson is a big piece too. Towns has set 416 screens for Brunson, which is the second most in the entire league. That's not just a lot, it's chemistry, and it's producing real points. The pick and roll action between them is generating 1.265 points per possession, which lands in the top 8 among high-volume pairs. That's not just effective, it's downright punishing. And let's not ignore the boards. Towns and Robinson are gobbling up a combined 14.3 rebounds every 36 minutes. That includes 4.8 offensive rebounds, which is basically 5 bonus chances per game. That turns into an extra 4.2 second chance points every night. That's how you bury teams. One shot's not enough. They'll clean it up and score again. Now the playoffs are where things get complicated. Robinson was still recovering from his ankle injury, so they barely got any minutes together, just 10 total. But in that tiny sample, the Knicks still posted a plus 12.3 net rating. Even when the minutes were low, the impact showed up fast. But here's where the problems come in. Robinson's free throw shooting in the playoffs was brutal, 39.1%. That turned into a real issue. Teams started hacking him just to get free possessions, which forced the coaching staff to split him and Towns up more often than they probably wanted. You can't run those two together if one of them's getting sent to the line every time he touches the ball. And of course, we've got to talk about the sample side. Across the regular season, Robinson and Towns only logged 57 minutes together. That's barely a preview. Robinson came back late from that ankle surgery, so we haven't even seen the full potential of what they can be over a bigger stretch. Even with the limited time, Towns still looks sharp. His scoring dips a little when Robinson's out there. He drops from 26.1 points per game to 24.6, but his efficiency stays elite. He's shooting 53% from the field, 44% from deep, and 85% from the line. That's not just efficient, that's surgical. That slight scoring dip isn't a bad sign either. It just means there's a redistribution going on. With Robinson pulling defenders into the paint and owning the offensive glass, Towns has more space to pick his spots. That frees up everyone else, and the whole offense moves better. There's a lot of excitement about this pairing, but the numbers show why. The spacing, the rim protection, the rebounding, the switchability, every piece is working. The only thing missing is more time. Give these 2 more minutes together, and the Knicks might be sitting on one of the most dominant front courts in the league. The formula is there. The only thing left is consistency. Even in those brief minutes with Bridges added in, the Knicks turn into a nightmare lineup that can clamp down and run you out of the building. There's no weakness when they're locked in. They're long, fast, physical, and they actually mesh in terms of skill set. One stretches the floor, one lives at the rim, and both can disrupt just about anything on defense. If they can stay out of foul trouble, and Robinson avoids becoming a free throw liability, there's no ceiling on what this combo can do. The early signs are already flashing bright. Every number points to the same thing. The Knicks are really, really good when Robinson and Towns are on the court together. Now they just need to stay there. Mitchell Robinson is going to be huge in the Pacers series. There's no escaping that. You can dress it up however you want, but the matchup itself forces the spotlight straight onto him. Not because of one dramatic moment or some poetic story arc, but because every single trend, number, and matchup advantage says his impact isn't optional, it's essential. And I don't mean good to have around essential. I mean, if he doesn't show up, it all might fall apart. Essential. Indiana brings speed, shooting, and non-stop motion. They aren't waiting around for half-court sets. They're trying to turn every rebound into a track meet and every defensive lapse into a layup, which is exactly why Robinson's presence in the paint has to be felt early and often. He can't afford to ease into games or wait for rhythm. His first shift needs to hit like a punch. What makes this series such a test for him isn't just what Indiana does, it's the way they do it. The Pacers want to scramble the defense, bait slow rotations, and find shooters slipping behind the line. If Robinson's slow to rotate or late on a recovery, Indiana's perimeter guys will bury the Knicks in threes before the second quarter even starts. His reads have to be quick. No drifting, no jogging, no watching the ball. If he's not active, Indiana's going to flood the floor with points. But when he is locked in, everything changes. He turns drives into floaters, floaters into pump fakes, and pump fakes into panicked kickouts. He forces shot clock violations without touching the ball. He turns shooters into passers and cutters into ghosts. And that's exactly the kind of disruption that can ruin Indiana's rhythm. It's not about how many blocks he racks up. It's how many shots don't happen because he's standing there. Then there's Miles Turner. He's not some back to the basket center. He's popping out to the three-point line and hitting them with confidence. That means Robinson can't just camp in the lane. He's got to close out, recover, and somehow not give up rebounding position. This is the challenge. Guard the arc and the rim in one possession. There's no margin for error. If Robinson closes out too slow, Turner hits a three. If he closes out too hard, Turner drives past him. If he doesn't help on the drive, Halliburton scores at the rim. It's a constant high wire act. And speaking of rebounds, this might be the one category where Robinson's impact is felt in the most obvious way. Indiana doesn't rebound well. They leave the door wide open for second chances, and Robinson has been eating those up all playoffs. That has to continue. No excuses, no lapses. If the Knicks are going to limit Indiana's fast breaks, they need to win the glass. And by win the glass, I mean Robinson has to dominate it. He needs to end possessions, start them, and then extend them. His hands have to be everywhere. But the rebounds don't mean much if he's sitting on the bench. Foul trouble can't be part of the story in this series. Indiana lives off of drawing contact and baiting defenders into mistakes. They'll isolate him, drag him out, hit him with pump fakes, and try to stack up early fouls. If Robinson picks up 2 in the first quarter, the Knicks will have to rely on small ball lineups that simply can't protect the rim the same way. His discipline is going to be tested over and over. And then there's the free throws. Yeah, that again. Every time he steps to the line, it's a potential turning point. The Pacers know it. The Knicks know it. Everyone watching knows it. If he hits at least half, the strategy falls apart. If he clanks them like he has in the past, Indiana will happily put him on the line 10 times a game and grin while they do it. So he doesn't need to be automatic. He just needs to be serviceable. He needs to walk to the line like it's part of the plan, not a punishment. But here's where things start tilting back in his favor. When Robinson shares the floor with Towns, the whole dynamic shifts. Suddenly, Robinson isn't just the anchor, he's the hammer. Towns pulls defenders out, and Robinson attacks the gaps. Towns spaces the floor, and Robinson cleans it up. When they're out there together, the Knicks don't just survive, they take control. That pairing has been statistically dominant in short spurts, and if Thibodeau finds a way to stretch those minutes, it's going to put Indiana on their heels real fast. And it's not just the front court pairing, it's the ripple effect. When Robinson is active, the perimeter defenders get bolder. They chase shooters tighter, knowing there's backup behind them. The rotations get sharper, the pace slows. Everything starts to click. But when he's off the floor, the margins shrink. Every miss matters more. Every gamble feels riskier. His presence isn't just about his man, it's about the space he controls and the decisions he forces from the entire opposing lineup. You don't need to overthink this. The Pacers are good because they put stress on your defense every trip down. They move, they cut, they hit shots, and they punish slow rotations. Robinson is the stress relief valve. If he's quick to react and confident in space, he makes the entire team better without even touching the ball. If he's not, that pressure builds and builds until it breaks something. Robinson is going to be huge in this series because he has to be. Not in theory, not in some next man up cliche, but in real execution. This isn't a series where he can afford to float. He's got to jump off the screen, minute by minute, possession by possession. He's got to be everywhere. He's got to be loud in the paint. He's got to be silent on the bench. And he's got to play like every trip down the floor is the last one. Because in this series, every trip might matter that much. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day during this playoffs. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.